Hello everyone. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube here at Golf Cart Garage. The garage is now open. We're going to do a little Q&A today. We're going to answer some emails and answer some questions and maybe interact with some live customers that have questions. Let's see, so we'll go ahead and get started here. Let's see, number one. This is from Chip Barton. I have a 2013 Club Cart Precedent that has been lifted, which I use for hunting and around the yard. Any suggestions as to what I can do to fix the rough ride problem? All right. Well, some lift kits come with their own leaf springs. So my question would be, did you change your leaf springs, or was your lift kit one of the types that comes with its own leaf springs? And if not, were you already running HD leaf springs on the rear? Because the shocks don't really do a lot as far as to make the ride softer. When a lot of times when people want a better ride, what they're actually saying is that they want a softer ride. Now, heavy duty leaf springs does make a golf cart stiff. So if you had HD leaf springs on there, it could be kind of stiff. It might be necessary to be that stiff depending on what kind of terrain and what you're doing with the cart. But I would have questions about your leaf springs, and your lift kit. Did your lift kit come with its own leaf springs? There's no softer leaf spring than stock. The stock leaf spring is going to be the softest one out there. So if you're already running stock, there's not much you can do about getting a softer ride. So let's go to question number 2. Question number 2 is from Greg Larson. Is there any chance that you can help me with a question about my 68 model D Harley Davidson cart? It will run with the choke pulled part way out. I'm thinking about replacing the crank seals. I actually spoke with Greg the other day about this. He had scheduled a call with me and we had a conversation about this. And I was telling him that it's been my experience that anytime that symptom is with one, especially in one of the two-stroke golf cars, a Harley Davidson that old is a two-stroke golf car. You have to mix the oil and the gas. Anyway, those type cars, anytime a symptom comes up where you have to start pulling the choke in order to keep it running, it won't run without pulling the choke, it's almost always crank seals. I mean, especially in one that old. If they've never been changed, it would be amazing that it's still running. But if they're from 1968, but it is possible. But anyway, what you're doing is that the crank seals start sucking in air, too much air, and then you're choking it, and you're actually compensating for all that air that's going in there. You're compensating by choking it. So anyway, when you replace the crank seals, I bet all your problems go away. So that would be a good idea to replace your crank seals. Okay. Number 3. This is from Dan Miles. Increased wheel height will have how much effect on speed and torque going from an 8.5-inch rim to a 12-inch rim? Please let me know your thoughts on this as to how noticeable the change will be. Let's see, that was number 3. Well, the change comes in, it's not necessarily your rim height. That's not what you're worried about. You could go from an 8-inch rim to a 10-inch rim, and as long as you put a lower profile tire on the 10-inch rim, your overall tire height would be the same. So there would be no change. So it's not your rims that you have to worry about, it's the overall tire height. Now, stock tire height on a golf cart is 18 inches. So I would bet that if you went to a 10-inch rim with a low profile tire, that it would still be, the overall height would be about 18 inches, or maybe 18 to 19, just a little bit. A little change between like 18 inches and 20, you're not really going to notice a lot of difference. You may notice a little bit of top end speed increase if you go to a slightly taller tire. but I doubt you would notice any torque decrease unless you were talking about a really, really low power, a low power golf cart, like if your golf cart doesn't have a lot of power. Now, this comes into play more, it's more noticeable on electric cars when you go to taller tires than it is on gas cars. Gas cars, you know, they have the torque system with the two clutches, and they're constantly compensating for the taller tires. You know, they'll just go into a lower gear, so you'll hardly tell a difference on the gas car. Now, on an electric car, it does come into play. I would never recommend going with over 20-inch tires on just to, if you could get anywhere between 18 to 20, that would be, you probably wouldn't even notice it. After that, you're going to start noticing a torque decrease. So that would be my recommendation there. Let's see. Question number 4. My EZGO wheels on my Yamaha YDR will not allow the studs to extend through the lug nuts. There is no spacer. Do I have a problem? Let's see. You must have an odd rim. Are you saying, my question would be, are you talking about the center hole in the rim will not go over your spindle, or the studs on the Yamaha are just too big to go through the holes, the lug nut holes? I'm not sure that I'm understanding the question fully. Now, you do have to remember this: Yamaha has metric lug nuts. So the threads are different on a Yamaha than they are on an EZGO and a club car. But as far as the size of the holes go, I've never seen that happen. So you might have an odd rim for some reason. You might ought to check on that. Let's see. We'll go to number 5. This is from Daniel Cooney. I have a 1992 Club Cart DS 36 volt. When I step on the throttle, the cart goes instantly to full throttle to the point where it spins the tires. What would the problem be? Well, it could be a number of things, but in 1992 Club Cart, you could have 2 different types of electrical systems, and I'm not sure which one that you have. You could have a V-Glide to resistors electrical system, or you could have a V-Glide to controller electrical system in a 1992. But my point is that the V-Glide is what's responsible for telling your car how to accelerate. You know, when you touch the gas pedal, the V-Glide slides across some copper contacts, and as you continue to press the gas pedal further and further and further, it tells your car to speed up. So my question would be, has anyone worked on it, first of all, and you need to examine your V-Glide. V-Glide, when there's a cover on your V-Glide, you can take the cover off and look at it. It should be perfectly clean. It should look almost brand new inside there. If you see any signs of discoloration in the copper or any signs of melting plastic, then your V-Glide's been getting hot and it might need to be replaced. If your car is a controller car and not the resistor system, not V-Glide to resistors, if it's V-Glide to controller, then I would ask, has someone been working on your car? Because it sounds like you could have 2 wires backwards on top of the controller. And so I'd have to ask you some questions about that. All right, let's see. Question number 6. This is from C. Rhodes. I have a 5-year-old 6-volt US battery, 1800s. I have a 12-volt charger that will desulfate 12-volt batteries. Connecting 2 in series, do you think this process will help the batteries? I get this question a lot. I've gotten this question over the years many, many times. It does not hurt anything to try. I have tried it many times to revive batteries just by using I have a desulfating charger myself. It's kind of a new thing on, well, relatively new on the market. The last 10 years or so, they started coming out with these desulfating chargers. So everybody jumped on it and has been trying it, myself included. I have not been successful. I have not been very successful at all. In my research, I have found that the desulfating chargers may have more of a tendency to help extend the life of an already good battery rather than bring back a bad battery. Now, this is just my opinion. I mean, like I said, it doesn't hurt to try, but I've just not been very successful at any of the desulfating procedures and bringing a bad battery back to life. But by all means, try it. Okay, now we go to number 7. This is from David Bruner. I have a 2002 TXT EZGO. I am converting from 36 to 48 volts and changing out the forward and reverse lever to a switch. What do I need to convert the lever to a switch? Okay, the fact that you're telling me that your car has a lever and not a switch, that tells me that your EZGO is a series wound electrical system. And what you're wanting to do is convert a series wound electrical system to a push button forward and reverse switch. Well, believe it or not, it is possible. You just need to Google something. You need to Google reversing solenoids. You need to get on the internet and Google reversing solenoid kit, and that'll take you where you need to go. All right, we're going to look at number 8. This question is from Roger. When I went to install the MadJax Genesis 300, the well bracket is 20.5 inches long and the bag wheel is 20.8 inches long. Thus, it does not fit. Okay, let's see. I had a conversation with Roger about this on the phone. What we had discovered was that his EZGO RXV is a 2021. There's a slight change in 2021 to the bag wheel area. So a rear-facing seat kit that says it will fit all RXVs, they might not fit a 2021. So MadJax, the seat company, is now aware of this. We're going to have to either do modification to a couple of his existing parts, or he's going to have to, MadJax is going to have to come out with a whole new seat kit because the bag wheel area is a little bit different. So, but anyway, Roger's taken care of. I spoke with him yesterday. Let's see. Question 9 is from Mike. I have 2 golf carts, 2006 Club Cart DS 48 volt, a 1997 Yamaha model G16 36. When accelerating very slowly, the carts jerk and buck, not smooth at all. The Yamaha is real bad. The Club Cart just started doing it. All right, well, let's start with the 2006 Club Car. 2006, I probably have said this before, 2006 Club Cart DS 48 volt is going to have a M-core, MCOR. That is the type of potentiometer. That's what Club Car calls their potentiometer in their golf cars, is an M-core in a 2006 model. The M-core is directly responsible for the smoothness of the acceleration of your golf cart. A lot of times when the M-core starts going bad, it's a sealed unit. It's not repairable. You just have to replace it. A lot of times the symptoms of a bad M-core can be all different types of erratic acceleration. Like you push it a little bit and the car goes real fast and then will slow down on its own and you just go up and down, up and down. That's one symptom. Another symptom is that you push it all the way to the floor and it runs smooth, but anytime you try to go any other speed, it will not run smooth. The acceleration's all over the place. So in your club car, in your 2006 club car, that's probably where your issue is. Now, you said you mentioned the Yamaha. You're having a similar problem with a 36 volt Yamaha. Well, in the Yamaha, it's not the potentiometer is not called the M-core, it's called the throttle position sensor. So most likely that's what it is in your Yamaha. It's actually the device that does the same thing. It looks different, it's made different. As far as Yamaha, it's completely different, but its function is the same thing. It talks to the controller, tells the controller what to do, which tells the motor what to do. So the throttle position sensor would be what I would be looking at in the Yamaha. It is kind of a coincidence that you have 2 completely different cars and they're doing the same thing. So let's see now. Question number 10 is from William. I bought a used Club Cart DS 48 volt with 48 with batteries a couple of months ago. the yellow light was constantly flashing when hooked up to the charger. It would not hold a charge. Could you give me advice on what the problem could be? Well, this is what I would want you to do. This is what I would want you to do. I would want you to check the batteries with a handheld voltmeter. I don't care if you have a dash meter already on the car or anything. I need you to get some battery numbers off your batteries with an accurate handheld voltmeter. That yellow light flashing on your dash is a sign of low voltage. That will start flashing when the voltage gets low. It will flash for other reasons also, but one of the reasons that it will flash is low voltage. So we need to verify that that is not the case right off the bat. That'd be the easiest thing to verify right off the bat. We can eliminate your batteries as being the problem right off the bat, just by doing that. All right, number 11. This is from Frank. After a full charge, my meter only shows 2 bars. When I turn the key on and run it, it runs all the way up and then back down to 2 bars. Battery are only 2 years old. Well, just like the last person, I don't really trust those dash meters too much, so I would like to verify that also. I'd like to verify your batteries. If they're only showing 2 bars, then you should, if your dash meter is working correctly, then one of your batteries is going to be out of whack. So you could I need to take readings off of every one of your batteries and I wouldn't be surprised if one of them is a lot lower. I understand that they're only 2 years old, but if your dash meter is working correctly and only showing 2 bars, then we need to verify that you do not have a battery issue. So I need you to check the battery readings with a voltmeter. All right, let's see. Number 12. This question is from Peter. I have a G2 Yamaha and it was flooding out. Bought a new carb from you, started doing it again after a few days. Is there a gas pump that may not be shutting off properly? It fills the crankcase with with fuel, sorry. Well, I did speak with Peter on the phone, I believe, if I remember right. Is there a gas pump? Yeah, there's a fuel pump, but the thing that shuts the fuel pump off is the float in conjunction with the needle and seat. All of that is in the carburetor bowl. If the float is not floating up enough to where the needle closes off, then fuel can continue to run past the carburetor and therefore fill up the crankcase, get in the crankcase. You can get gasoline in the crankcase, mix in with your oil. A lot of times people don't even realize that this is happening until their car starts spitting and sputtering, and then hopefully they'll check their oil and it'll be all thinned out with gasoline, because a lot of times it would not quite be shutting it off. So I would suspect your needle and seat is not shutting off the fuel in your case. Okay, let's see here. Number 13 is from Dale. I have a Yamaha 48 volt G19. The batteries are good, but when I try to drive it, it dies. Any helpful info would be greatly appreciated. Well, my first question would be, how do you know your batteries are good? Because I know I've said this all the time, but the first thing that I have to eliminate with any electric golf cart that comes in my shop, or that came in my shop, it would be the batteries. I always eliminate the batteries as being the issue, because low voltage or loose connection, bad cable. That's why I check individual battery readings, and then I check across the entire pack also. I check that just to make sure that every one of the cables is connected really good. So in your case, that would be my question. How do you know the batteries are good? Because I would like to run through some tests or some voltmeter tests just to make sure and verify and get that out of the way before I made any diagnosis whatsoever on that. Okay, let's see here. Question number 14. This is the last question from the emails. This is from Al. Frequent failure to crank. When it doesn't crank, it sounds like weak battery, like a groan. Battery good and well connected. Continue to tap pedal and it cranks and starts. Don't know what to replace first. Can you help? I think I know what you're talking about. I found this in club cars a lot. Sometimes when you would hit the gas pedal on a gas, I'm assuming we're talking about a gas golf cart because you're using the word crank. Sometimes when you hit the gas pedal, what is generally supposed to happen, you know, is the starter starts turning, and the starter has a belt, and then it turns the motor over and the car cranks. Well, a lot of times if the motor on some club cars, usually the Kawasaki FE290 in particular, if it's on the compression stroke, I don't know if a lot of you know what I mean by that, but if it's right there on the compression stroke, then you would hit the starter and the starter would spin inside the belt at first. You let off the gas and hit it again and it'll spin inside the belt again. And sometimes you keep playing with it and it keeps hitting on that compression stroke and you finally get it to turn over that compression stroke and then the motor turns over and the car will crank. Now, a lot of times what I have found the way to fix this is just replace the starter belt and make sure that it has the right amount of tension on it. The starter belts on golf cars are pretty tight, especially on 4-strokes, because they're pretty hard to turn over. So I would take a look at that. If you know how, crank your car in neutral and watch the starter. Like put it in neutral, raise your seat, and start hitting the gas pedal and watch that starter. And you'll see what I'm talking about, and you'll also see if it's spinning inside the belt, and that can be making that noise that you were talking about. Okay, let's see here. Looks like we have a question, a live question from Tim Myers. I have a 97 Villager 6 48 volt. If I was to lift it, how bad would it hurt my charge time for running? Well, the lift is not going to hurt your range. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. You're asking me about range. It's not going to be the lift that hurts your range. It's going to be the strain that you put on the electrical system with the taller tires. When you put taller tires on a golf car, you essentially have changed the gear ratio. You're not riding around in first gear anymore, where you got plenty of power. You're riding around in second gear all the time. So in other words, every time you stop and take off, you're not taking off in first, you're taking off in second. And so that puts a strain on the electrical system. Now once you get rolling, the strain decreases. But when you're accelerating, you're under a strain. So it's just going to depend on your terrain as far as your range goes. And if you're worried about range, when it's time to get new batteries, if we're talking about an electric car, when it's time to get new batteries, you might ought to look into lithium, because there's all kinds of ways that you can make lithium packs nowadays and get tremendous range, in any golf car, if you're willing to spend the money, obviously, because lithium is much more expensive. So that's what I would say there. Let's see here. That looks like it's going to be about it for today. We will see y'all next week, and if everything goes right, I'll be back here again next week, and we'll answer some